Respected members on the dais, respected Sri Bundu Rajan, the founder of Pambungal Publications, respected Dr. Major Nalini Janardhanan, the Vanida Ratnam awardee, respected Colonel Janardhan, respected delegates and ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to be here this evening to address this august gathering on the occasion of the 23rd anniversary of the Pambungal Publications. And I am indeed grateful to the organizers, particularly Sri Mundu Rajan, the founder of Pambungal Publications. I am glad to know that Pambungal Publications has a glorious 23 years and have published several books during the last 23 years of most valuable books. I am amazed to see that such a great galaxy of writers and intellectuals from Kerala settled in Mumbai, and indeed their outpourings, scientific, intellectual, spiritual, exploration of nature, etc., collectively of the highest degree of intellectual outputs. And I would request the organizers to translate all these Malayalam books into English so that it can be read by the entire world, because English language has now come into prominence. On this occasion, I have been requested by the organizers to deliver a talk related to publishing industry. And the topic that I have chosen is publishing industry in modern India, its challenges and scopes. I must confess at the outset, I am not a publishing authority. However, in my capacity as a lawyer, law lecturer, freelance journalist, and also on account of my pursuing a journalism and mass communication degree from a central university, I have had plenty of chances, opportunities to observe at close quarters the development of publishing industry in India and abroad. I would like to share with you some of these observations. Publishing industry world over has been witnessing a phenomenal change since the last couple of decades, mainly on account of the globalization we have witnessed over the years. We are presently living in an information society surrounded by computers, intellectuals, internet, social medias, and robots, artificial intelligence, etc., etc. We are witnessing a worldwide growth of publishing industry. In fact, certain regions of the world which had hitherto remained aloof from the mainstream publishing industry has now come out in the mainstream publishing industry. For example, if you trace the history of the Middle Eastern countries, you will find prior to the oil boom, prior to the globalization, all those Middle Eastern countries and Islamic countries were keeping away from the mainstream publishing industry in the country, in the world, and their knowledge and wisdom were mainly confined to Quran. You would have also heard about a story of a Middle Eastern ruler burning down the most famous Alexandria library, saying that those library containing books which are insult to Quran, and according to him, the entire Quran contains the knowledge and the wisdom a human wants to acquire. His name, for he is from the Middle Eastern country, his name is Caliph Omar bin Al-Khattab, saying that he doesn't want to to maintain any library so long as Quran remains. I, for one, however, do not accept this contention, although it is prevalent contention. However, in the modern time, since the time we have been witnessing globalization and oil boom, these changes drastically changed. Now, in all the Middle Eastern countries, you will find that rulers are high intellectuals, having acquired degrees and PhDs, and they have now started promoting the culture of reading books and side by side establishing libraries and publishing of books in a big way. In fact, recently, in the first of this month, that is November, there was an international book fair called Sharjah International Book Fair. As per the reports in the media, it had an overwhelming response. People from all over the world participated by displaying their books, and it was in great demand. I also read the books published from India and on subjects pertaining to India were in great demand. In fact, the ruler of Sharjah, His Highness Dr. Sheikh Sultan bin Muhammad Al-Qasimi, himself is a great scholar and lover of books, and he has set up several libraries in his country. At the inaugural function of the book fair, Sheikh Sultan has stated, and I quote him, "The dark current of extremism can only be turned back through the light of knowledge and education through books," unquote. I'm sure his call for the publication of good books will go a long way in maintaining a peaceful society around the world. Sheikh Sultan has evinced keen interest in the publishing industry of India, and he has visited this country several times in this regard. As you are aware, in all the Muslim and Arab countries, there are unprecedented changes of view towards India and Indians. In Turkey, which is an Islamic country, the government issued in 2015 a special commemorative stamp depicting our Prime Minister Modi ji and our national flag in recognition of the dynamic leadership of Modi ji and the importance attached to Indians by the Turkish people. Likewise, in UAE, which is an Arab country, the government has allotted a large chunk of land for the construction of a magnificent Hindu temple in that country. Similarly, in Saudi Arabia, where I had lived in the past, government conferred upon Modi ji the highest civilian honor of that country. You may also be aware that a famous Saudi scholar and also a columnist by name Khalaf al-Kharbi, in his weekly column in Saudi Gazette, which is the largest English language newspaper in that country, has heaped upon the country, describing it as probably the most tolerant nation on the planet Earth. He further stated, and I quote, "In India, there are more than 100 religions and more than 100 languages, yet the individuals stay in peace and harmony. They have all joined palms to construct a robust nation that produces everything from a stitching needle to the rocket which is getting ready to go to Mars." I need to say that I really feel a bit jealous as I come from a part of the world which has one faith and one language, and yet there are killings all over the place. In short, the entire world, particularly the Islamic and Arabic countries, have now recognized the strength of India. This is possible only because 80% of Indian population adhere to what is called the Sanatan Dharma, our ancient philosophy, the eternal righteousness. The inherent characteristics of the Sanatan Dharma is enshrined in the ancient philosophy of India, which in Sanskrit says Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu, which means may all the beings of the world be happy. Our former president, late Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam lived in Sanatan Dharma. His statue, erected by the government at the southern tip of India, has now become a tourist attraction, as his illustrious life in Sanatan Dharma has inspired millions of people around the world. India is the only country in the world which has the largest diversities, and yet there is a strong thread binding all Indians together, which is called the thread of unity. This unity in diversity is the inherent strength of our country. As you are aware, the main national characteristics of the United States of America is what is called liberty. The Statue of Liberty is the national symbol of USA. Similarly, the national characteristics of India is unity in diversity. Unfortunately, however, there is no statue of this unity which must have been there even when the country attained independence. However, I am sure all the patriots Indians will be glad to know that a grand statue of unity is now coming up in the state of Gujarat, which is almost in the heart of India. On completion, it will become a great tourist spot. When many parts of the world would be burning in sectarian violence, this Statue of Unity of India will give new light of succor, solace and inspiration, like a lighthouse guiding the ships and navigation in the troubled waters. The statue shall remain as a monument for people around the world to emulate this fundamental Indian characteristics of unity in diversity and peace and harmony, fostering universal brotherhood. I'm sure the place around the Statue of Unity will become a major tourist attraction in India, exactly as the Statue of Liberty in the USA in the years to come. In this unprecedented change of outlook around the world towards India, I am sure there is a great scope for the publishing industry in India. Our publishing industry can have joint ventures around the world. Several American publishing corporations have joint ventures in India, as for example, the HarperCollins publishers have established a joint venture with India Today publications. Apart from these changes taking place around the world, we in India are witnessing almost every day great changes at all levels. Since the time there was a change of government at the center in 2014, the country is in the process of leaving behind its tag as a developing nation into a fully developed country in the years to come. India is presently at the threshold of re-emerging as a major economic power in the world. All the major rating agencies in the world, including IMF and World Bank, has unanimously reckoned this country as the fastest growing major economies, even surpassing China. The IT sector in India is world's largest outsourcing destination for the information technology. The year 2015 witnessed a tremendous growth in the emergence of innovative startups and creative entrepreneurs. Presently, India ranks third in the global startup ecosystem. The worldwide media has reached to a unanimous conclusion that by the year 2030, which is fast nearing, India will overtake even United States and Europe in terms of GDP growth, technological advances, and would emerge as a major industrial and military power. In recent time, there are numerous instances of setting up departments for the study of India called Indology in the top-ranking universities in the world over. Last month, Harvard University has set up a separate chair for the study of Tamil and spirituality of our country. You would have also heard the study of Sanskrit language becoming very popular world over. In India, the Sanskrit is known as Deva Bhasha, But in the Western, in European country, this language is known language of enlightenment. In 1987, the Forbes magazine has published a research report stating that Sanskrit language is the most computer-friendly language in the world. NASA of USA has been experimenting and implementing the Sanskrit language in their scientific operation and developing artificial intelligence. There is in fact a craze for learning Sanskrit language world over. They have discovered that reciting Sanskrit slogas develops the brain cell and bring out dormant skills in any person who regularly recite Sanskrit slogas. This was discovered by St. James School in London. They have started teaching Sanskrit to their children since the time it was established in London. In Germany, there are several universities teaching Sanskrit and also speakers of this language. In Netherlands, Denmark, and other Scandinavian countries, the study of Bhagavad Gita is made compulsory from 5th standard onwards. All these changes taking place across the world are centered on India, and therefore for all the logistical support and supply of academic books, they can come to India, and Indian publishers can be helpful by providing books and other logistical support to them. Books in Sanskrit, self-study, books on the Skilling India, new startup programs, etc. are going to be subject of our publishing industry in India in the years to come. Publishing is the backbone of mass communication and the educational system of any country. Kerala gained the reputation of 10% literate state mainly on account of the publishing industry, flourishing publishing industry in that state. Publishing industry is also a catalyst which brings into focus many other areas of human enterprises, as for example, the development of tourism, printing, etc. You are aware, Christopher Columbus' imagination was fired up by the Marco Polo, published abroad, who had described about this country, most fabulous, most noblest and richest country in the world. Books on Indian social sensibilities, social realities, ancient mythology, etc. are perennial source of publishing industry and for the writers of India in all the languages. You are aware our writers had acquired worldwide fame and name, as for example, late R.K. Narayan, Amish Tripathi, Vikram Seth, etc. have fired up the imagination of the Western and worldwide tourists. Yet another untapped area for the publishing industry is the large number of Indian diaspora, that is Pravasi Bharatiyas, around the world, who are a great source of publishing industry in our country. Ever since our Prime Minister Modi ji started addressing the Pravasi Bharatiyas around the world, there's a keen interest amongst the Pravasi Bharatiyas towards India. Our External Affairs Minister, Madam Sushma Swaraj, often extends all the help to Indian diasporas in any part of the world. She often refers Indian diasporas as sons and daughters of Bharat Mata. As you all know, the Nobel laureate V.S. Naipaul is an Indian diaspora. He has written several books on India, all his by observation and experience of this country, and his books are in great demand at all times. Recently, a friend of mine gifted me a book. The book is titled Leaving India, My Family's Journey from 5 Villages to 5 Continents. It was written by a very young lady, an Indian diaspora settled in Fiji Island. It is a remarkable book, and this young lady has described the conditions prevailing during her grandfather's time in a village in Gujarat, and then the freedom struggle, the travel through different parts of the world, the struggle in a proper livelihood, and their great success to develop an industrial conglomerate in Fiji, etc., etc. So what I am trying to say, all these Indian diasporas, if they write about their root in India, their experience in this country, and publish their books in India, there will be a revolution in the publishing industry in India in the years to come. I feel there is also a general myth that books written in English get more popularity, but it is no longer so. In fact, Amish Tripathi's book in English, translated into other Indian languages, has got huge demands, much more than his original book in English. You would have also observed that the Indian language newspaper, Dainik Jagran, in Hindi, is the second largest newspaper in the country. Similarly, Malayalam Manorama, a Malayalam language newspaper, is the third largest newspaper in the country according to the Bureau of Circulation. Therefore, I am of the opinion that having numerous languages in the country is of a great strength for the publishing industry in this country. Language, any book published in one particular language, if it has some popularity, the publishers must take efforts to publish it in other languages. In fact, my favorite author in Malayalam is M.T. Vasudevan Nair. I recall about a decade ago, I read a novel by M.T. translated into English and published by Penguin. It is called The Daman Seal. It is indeed a remarkable and inspiring book. Every sentence in the book carries a rich image of Kerala, the local flavor and the condition, the uniqueness of that region. The main character of the book is one, Govindan Kutti, and how circumstances prevailed around his social people around his family and compelled him to renounce Hinduism and to convert into Islam. I feel the present situation in Kerala is remaining the same, and I would feel these kind of books are transformative books. People get an idea as to what is going on around your own birthplace, around your own state. Similarly, almost all the Malayalam books by O.V. Vijayan have been translated into English and published by well-established publishing houses. Therefore, I feel that translation of books is yet another source of business for the publishing industry in this country. If you were to trace the trend in publishing of books in Malayalam, you will observe that writings by the Keralite diasporas around the world, in the particularly Middle Eastern countries and the NRIs, are steadily increasing. Take for instance the book called Adu Jeevithangal, originally published in Malayalam. It was written by a Keralite living in the kingdom of Bahrain, an NRI. His name is Benjamin Benny. Although it was his first book, it had a phenomenal success. I understand that this book has undergone over 50 reprints, and also Adu Jeevitham has also been translated into English by a multinational publishing giant Penguin, and I have read that book some couple of years ago. I'm glad to know that Pambungal Publishing House is coming up in a big way to promote writings by the diasporas around the world in both Malayalam and English. In this modern time, Anybody with a computer can produce any write-up on any topic under the sun and enter into what is popularly known as self-publishing. Any Tom, Dick and Harry can overnight become a self-publisher. But the question is whether he can reach his books to the intended readers or the book lovers, and for which only the traditional publishers can help by way of distribution of that self-published books. You must have heard of the recent success story of Amish Tripathi. Amish came out with a mythological story of India. Initially, he also self-published his book. He did not stop there. His creative output was taken over by a well-known mainstream publishing journal, namely Westland Books, who distributed his books through its vast network of publishing across the world, and sky was the limit. And I heard that his book is also published in many other languages of the world. If you were to analyze the statistic regarding publishing industry in India, you would discover that publishing industry in India is steadily growing in the country since independence. At one period of time after India attained independence, India had been relying upon 60 to 80% of imported books. Presently, we are witnessing a great degree of indigenization and growth of local authors in local vernacular languages are growing up at a very fast, encouraging rate. If you were to consider the success story of Penguin, which is a giant multinational publishing corporation, you will realize this reality. Penguin initially started their operation in India only for distributing their work published in many parts of the world except in India. But later on they realized the potential of publishing books by Indian authors, and they published numerous books of Indian authors, and therefore the import of foreign books have now reduced to 10 or 20%. That's a great encouraging sign for the publishing industry in this country. One of the major challenges by the publishing industry is what is known as book piracy. India is regarded as the largest book piracy centers in the world. A survey conducted by the Publishers Weekly shows that there is a parallel publishing industry exclusively dealing in pirated books going on in India. This will have to be tackled by strengthening the copyright laws by the government and also the intellectual property right, and also by creating awareness amongst the public by appropriate campaign. It is often taken for granted that pirated books are cheap compared to the original books, but that is not so, because I have experienced that some of the books put on footpath of Mumbai are pirated copies, although they may be selling 150 rupees and above. I have come across several cases where the original book is much lesser than that amount. In one case, I have found the book originally published by a publisher, well-known publisher, is costing 95 rupees, but I have purchased myself from in front of the footpath on University of Mumbai. I forgot the author's name. For 150 rupees, the original price is 90 rupees, and therefore appropriate campaigns should be carried on by the publishers of this country to make aware of the reading public and the members of the public of this country in order to tackle this menace of book piracy. Yet another challenge, which I would not call as a challenge, is the lack of reviewers in our country. In America, in Western and European country, there are separate experts. They read, their job is to read book and make comment upon it, review of the book. And this is lacking in our country. And therefore, if we inculcate that habit of review, either good or bad, Either way, that boosts up the sales, depending upon the taste of a person. If it is negative, there are people to buy it. If it is positive, there are also, again, people to buy such kind of books. As mentioned earlier, publishing industry is a catalyst which brings into focus many other areas of human enterprises. I am sure Pambungal Publishing House will seize this favorable climate, favorable opportunity in India, around the world, and they would scale greater heights in the years to come. I think it is time for me, because I was allotted a very short time, as otherwise I would have spoken separately on the intellectual quality of the books which was released today. Probably I could offer my talk on some other occasion. I take this opportunity to once again thank Pambungal Publishers and all those intellectuals gathered around here, and I specifically wish a very good future, a writerly life to all those authors whose remarkable books were released today. And I once again thank you for the patient hearing. Thank you.